What's up guys, my name is Ace, and with the 2v2 alpha for Modern Warfare now over, today I wanted to cover the top changes that we can expect to see based on what we've learned and the feedback from the alpha. I'm specifically going to be focusing on the things that the developers have acknowledged and have mentioned that they will be adjusting or fixing either before the beta or before the launch of the game. So let's just hop right into it, and the first thing is head glitching. For those of you guys that don't know what head glitching is, in Call of Duty and a lot of other first-person shooters, your view from your perspective in first person is also the point of origin for your shots. So the bullets don't actually come out of the barrel of your gun, they come from the direct center of your screen, which makes a lot of sense and it's very intuitive when you have it that way. However, a problem can arise when you have a system like this, and this is head glitching. In Modern Warfare in the alpha, the positioning of your camera or your perspective was right around the tip of the character's forehead. What this means is, technically speaking, the bullets come out of your forehead in Call of Duty. Even though the animations will still show the gun firing and they'll show a bullet coming out of the gun, those are purely animation based. When it actually comes to it in first person, the bullets technically come out of your forehead. As a result, I'm sure a lot of you guys experienced this throughout the alpha weekend. You can run into situations where you can only see just a couple pixels of the top of the enemy player's helmet, and yet they can still shoot you, and when you watch the kill cam, they had a full view of your entire body with just the tip of their forehead. This is clearly a very big problem because you run into situations that just make absolutely no sense, and also you run into unwinnable situations where you simply can't see or hit your enemy player, yet they have a full view of you. Now, this is something that isn't new to Call of Duty. We've seen this in the past. They have actually fixed it for a lot of the more recent Call of Duty games where they've moved that camera positioning down. And they have confirmed that they will be making adjustments to head glitching for the future with Modern Warfare. Now, for those wondering, the reason we don't have the bullets actually come from the gun itself is this can create a lot of inconsistencies and really jarring and frustrating situations. When you're in first person, for instance, if you're peeking over cover and the bullet originates from your gun instead of the center of your view, you'll actually run into a lot of situations where you're shooting cover in front of you, even though it doesn't look like you should be shooting cover in front of you. It looks like you should be shooting your target. So typically the best solution for this is to move that camera angle down a little bit, more so down to like the player's chin area, and that way at the very least you can see their entire head and not just the very tip of their head when they're trying to head glitch a piece of cover. The one problem that can result in bringing that camera angle down though is it can make your character feel a lot shorter when you're in first person, but we'll just have to wait and see how they end up solving this for the beta or the full build of the game. But moving on to the next thing on the list that they have acknowledged that they will be fixing for the beta build of the game, this is that pesky bug that was causing your settings to reset constantly between games. For me, the big problem was the film grain setting. I really wanted to turn film grain off, but it kept resetting itself after every single game that I played, which was a very minor annoyance. A lot of other people were experiencing issues with sensitivities resetting between games, and that would be a whole lot more frustrating because that really does affect your gameplay. Next up, a really big one here is there will be audio adjustments for the beta build of the game. They are going to be slightly reducing the first-person audio, so your own footsteps. They're going to be reducing the sound of that a little bit, so you're not sounding as loud to yourself. And at the same time, they're also going to be boosting up other players' footstep sounds just a little bit. So once we get to the beta, we should be able to hear footstep sounds a lot better. I do hope they don't take this too far because that can lead to a lot of situations where everybody's either just sitting still trying to hear enemy players, or they're crouch walking all over the place trying to remain silent. Having said that, I think this is definitely a much needed adjustment. There were too many inconsistent situations where you simply couldn't hear anything even when the player was running right up behind you, and I'm glad to see they'll be adjusting things in that area. Next up, something I've already talked about a little bit, but wanted to also include in this video that they have acknowledged and they will be adding in the future, although they didn't specify if we'll see this in the beta or not until the full build of the game. This is aim down sight sensitivity options for console players. This is really important in my opinion. After playing a Call of Duty game that has this aim down sight sensitivity option available, it's really hard to go back because you just don't have nearly as much control over how your character feels and reacts to your inputs. So by having this aim down sight sensitivity, we will have much more control, and I really hope we get to see this in the beta because, at least for me, it was very noticeable that these options were missing while playing the alpha. Moving on to the next thing that the devs are looking into making some adjustments to, this is the red name tags that appear over enemies. Now, they didn't specify what they would be doing in this area. They just said that they're going to be looking into the visibility of those red name tags. And I think this is great as well. In the alpha build of the game, I just feel like they showed up way too quickly and they were way too bright. If they were to just reduce the opacity of that, perhaps they could add a bit of delay before it shows up as well. I think that would be a nice balance. But that's just my opinion. Like I said, we don't know exactly what they're going to be doing to this, but they will be looking into it. After this, one of the biggest complaints I saw within the community, and this was one of my issues as well, is the black and white screen when you take damage in this game. For those of you guys that have seen it, especially when you take a decent amount of damage, your screen will go black and white for quite a long time, and additionally, when you're in that state, it'll be like your ears are ringing, so you can't hear if somebody's sprinting right up to you, or you can barely even hear where gunfire is at that point. And for many people, this was just far too much. It almost felt like when you took a lot of damage, you also got hit by a flashbang at the same time, which I feel is just a little bit overkill. So the devs have acknowledged this feedback. Again, they didn't state exactly what they were going to be doing here, but it looks like they will be making some kind of an adjustment to this damage state. After that, for those people that want to play mouse and keyboard on console, we did have access to that throughout the alpha. Unfortunately, time flew by and I didn't have a chance to give it a go for myself. But from the people that were trying to play mouse and keyboard on the console with the native support, there were simply not nearly enough options for mouse and keyboard. There wasn't enough sensitivity options. I don't think you could adjust any sort of acceleration curves. And to my knowledge, you couldn't even set proper keybinds. The devs have confirmed that for the beta build of the game, we will be seeing far more complete mouse and keyboard options in the game. Next up, Infinity Ward has acknowledged some of the feedback about penetration inconsistencies, so bullet penetration through cover. Apparently there were some inconsistencies there. I did experience this a couple times where I had like an assault rifle, for instance, and I was shooting at what I thought was really thin cover that should be easy to penetrate, and the bullets simply didn't go through. So they're going to be looking into making some adjustments to bullet penetration as well. Moving on to the next one. This one is specific to the Gunfight OSP mode. This is the one where you just spawn in with your fists and you have to go and you have to pick up your guns and your equipment manually. In this mode, there was a bit of a bug where if you started pressing the pickup button a little bit too early as you approached a gun, then it wouldn't actually activate and pick the weapon up. Also, there were a lot of times where even when you were standing directly on a gun, it just wasn't very intuitive, and there were often bugs with picking up weapons. And I did notice this quite a bit while playing OSP. It got me killed quite a few times where it's like, it's not picking the gun up, or I'd run right over top of a gun, thinking that I would pick it up on the way on my opening route, and then it didn't pick it up, and then I end up in a situation where I've got no gun in my hands, and I really should have. Thankfully, they have acknowledged this, and according to David Michner, it looks like they're going to give us the option, just like we have in Blackout, to either tap or hold to pick up. Also, it looks like they're going to be looking into fixing that issue where if you're starting to hold square before you approach the gun, it should still pick the gun up. And this is exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see the option because for a lot of people, they prefer having that hold to pick up because there are situations where, let's just say you already have a gun in your hands and you need to reload it, but you're standing on top of another gun. What takes precedence if it's tapped to pick up? When you hit square, do you reload your gun or do you pick the gun up that's at your feet? So for some people, they prefer having that hold to pick up option, but for me, I do prefer to tap to pick up. So I really like that they're giving us that choice. Next up, something I did mention in a video a couple days ago where I went into a lot more depth. This is the aim assist options. We had several different aim assist options, and it turns out these actually did apply to multiplayer. We had standard, experimental, and enhanced. And the descriptions for those weren't exactly crystal clear. So the devs have mentioned that they will be making adjustments to the descriptions for those aim assist options. And also they mentioned that one of those options, I'm assuming it's the enhanced option, wasn't actually working as intended throughout the alpha, and that will be fixed for the beta build of the game. The devs also went on to clarify a little bit, I'll leave this link down below, that with these aim assist options, there's actually pros and cons to each of them. So based on what they're saying at least, it looks like it's going to be more so preference-based rather than this one is stronger than that one. Moving on to the next fix that we're going to be seeing for the beta, this appears to be some sort of an adjustment to jump shots. Now again, we didn't get any specifics on this, and this is something that a lot of people didn't actually see. It was on Twitter, but in Twitter there was a video posted of somebody that was essentially abusing the jump shotting mechanic. They were basically jumping and bunny hopping all over the map just continually. It was actually pretty insane what they were doing. And Ashton from Infinity Ward did confirm that this will be fixed for the beta, so you won't be able to do that. My guess is they're going to include some sort of a stamina or a cooldown system, kind of like we have in Black Ops 4, where it takes a few seconds after a jump before you can jump again at maximum height. You'll still be able to jump, but you just won't have that same sort of momentum. I think this would be a great adjustment. It still allows you to get one good jump shot off, but you just can't continually bounce all over the place. So finally, one last thing that I have on my list, keeping in mind that I'm sure there will be other small adjustments, but I just wanted to focus on the main ones that we'll really notice. This next one is something that I personally ran into, and this has to do with kill trades. Now, don't get me wrong, I've got no problems with kill trades in this game since they are based on actual projectiles, so if you both fire your bullets and they're both in the air and then they both hit, I think kill trades are perfectly acceptable. My issue was in a 1v1 situation in Gunfight, when you get that kill trade, it seemed almost random as to which team would get the victory. And it definitely wasn't based on which shot landed first, because in the situation I ran into, my shot registered first according to the kill feed, which is actually determined by the host, not client side, and yet I still lost that round. So I did mention this to the devs, and I said I feel that this should result in a draw. I think that would be just the best case for everyone. It would eliminate a lot of confusion, and I think it makes sense. If you both die within a frame of each other at the end of the game, it should just be a draw and you move on to the next round. Joe did respond on Twitter here, and he said, "We'll definitely look into this. We can get this to a better place. Thanks for calling this out." So that's good news. We don't know exactly what change they're going to be making. I hope they just make it a draw if you get a kill trade at the end of the round. But at the very least, if they are going to make it so somebody wins and somebody loses, the person that kills first, according to the host, should be getting the win. But with that, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in today's video. Like I said, not a full-on comprehensive list. I'm sure there are some other little bugs and things behind the scenes that they're going to be making adjustments to before the beta. But overall, I'm very impressed with how well they've been communicating and also how well they've been taking feedback. That covered pretty much every one of my complaints and my pieces of feedback that I had in my initial impressions video that I did on Friday. And that's awesome to see. I'm really excited to see these changes implemented in the beta build of the game, even though not necessarily every single one of these will be fixed for the beta. But I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about the changes that they're going to be making moving forward based on the feedback from the alpha? Do you think these are generally good changes or bad changes? Is there something that wasn't addressed that you would love to see addressed based on your experience with the alpha? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.